Hello, my Storytime Stars. How are you all today? Today I have a story about the 5 little pigs. Have you heard of them before? This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed at home. This little piggy had roast beef, but this little piggy had none. So this little piggy cried, "Wee!" all the way home. Are you sitting still and listening carefully? Because the history of the little pigs is coming up after this.
La 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 la.
There was a family of 5 little pigs, and Mrs. Pig, their mother, loved them all very dearly. Some of these little pigs were very good and took a great deal of trouble to please her. The eldest pig was so active and useful that he was called Mr. Pig. One day he went to market with his cart full of vegetables, but Rusty, the donkey, began to show his bad temper before he had gone very far on the road. All the coaxing and whipping would not make him move. So Mr. Pig took him out of the shafts and, being very strong, drew the cart to market himself. When he got there, all the other pigs began to laugh. But they did not laugh so loudly when Mr. Pig told them all his struggles on the road. Mr. Pig lost no time in selling his vegetables, and very soon after, Rusty came trotting into the marketplace, and as he now seemed willing to take his place in the cart, Mr. Pig started for home without delay. When he got there, he told Mrs. Pig his story, and she called him her best and most worthy son. The little pig who stayed at home, he was the little pig that very much wanted to go with his brother. But as he was so mischievous and naughty that he could not be trusted far away, his mother made him stay at home and told him to keep a good fire while she went out to the miller's to buy some flour. But as soon as he was alone, instead of learning his lessons, he began to tease the poor cat. Then he got the bellows, which is a kind of instrument that pumps air into the fire, and cut the leather with a knife, just to see where the wind came from. And when he could not find this out, he began to cry. After this, he broke all his brother's toys. He forced the drumstick through the drum. He tore off the tail from the kite, and he pulled off the horse's head. And then he went to the cupboard and ate the jam. When Mrs. Pig came home, she sat down by the fire, and being very tired, she soon fell asleep. No sooner had she done so than this bad little pig got a long handkerchief and tied her in her chair. But soon she awoke and found out all the mischief and naughty things that he had been doing. She saw at once the damage that he had done to his brother's playthings. She quickly grabbed him by the collar, and she gave this naughty little pig such a scolding that he never forgot it for a long time. And then the other little pig, the third little pig, he had roast beef, because he was a very good and careful fellow. He gave his mother scarcely any trouble, and always took a pleasure in doing all that she asked of him. Here you see him sitting down with clean hands and face to some nice roast beef, while his brother, the lazy idle pig, who is standing on a stool in the corner with the dancer's cap on, has none. He sat down and quietly learned his lesson, and asked his mother to hear him repeat it, and this he did so well that Mrs. Pig stroked him on the ears and the forehead and called him a good little pig. After this, he asked her to allow him to help her make tea. He brought everything she wanted and lifted off the kettle from the fire without spilling a single drop on his toes or the carpet. By and by, he went out, after asking his mother's permission to play with his hula hoop. He had not gone far when he saw an old blind pig who, with his hat in his hand, was carrying the loss of his dog. So he put his hand in his pocket and found half a penny, which he gave to the poor old pig. It was for such thoughtful, helpful behaviour as this that his mother often gave this little pig roast beef, because he was so good. And we now come to learn about the pig who had none. Because this little pig who had none, he was an obstinate, stubborn and willful little pig. His mother had set him to learn his lessons, but no sooner had she gone out into the garden than he tore his book into pieces. When his mother came back, he ran off into the street to play with the other lazy little pigs just like himself. After this, he quarrelled and argued with one of the pigs and got such a loud scolding. But being afraid to go home, he stayed out until it was quite dark and then caught a cold, a very severe cold. So he was taken home and put to bed.